الله وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن والاه. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. We thank and we praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for affording us another opportunity to be in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We continue with our lessons of the Seerah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In our first lesson, we explained the importance of studying the Seerah and why we've chosen to study the Seerah in this particular fashion. We mentioned that, one thing is listening to the Seerah from a story point of view, but the other reason, like Dr. Sayyid Ramadan al-Buti mentions, it is as a career in the middle. That's much better. I don't even still tired from work and so we need enough light. And I'm dark. Enough light so we can not comfortable. But so that's saying, So the study of the Seerah that we're doing is a study in which we are able to derive some lessons from the Seerah. So obviously there are lessons, but the manner that you read the Seerah, that's how you derive the lesson, right? And I just want to mention this also. All of us, inshallah, we're going to do it within our homes. We're going to read the Seerah, we're going to read some hadith around it. And I spoke to one of my teachers, Tariq. He's the one that made me fall in love with history in the first place. And then I asked him to run a course at the masjid. And so he told me, no, you can do it yourself, right? And then, because I really like history. And then I told him, but I want the people to experience what I experienced in your course. So he said something very interesting. He said that everyone will, when they are going to teach Seerah, or they're going to teach history, they're going to teach it from their perspective. So my own experiences, that is what's coming through. And it might sit different with you. So when you're going to read the Seerah, and you're going to speak about the Seerah, it's going to sit different with you. Are you with me? For example, alhamdulillah, both my parents are still alive. But there might be people in the crowd, their parents have passed on, so you can relate to being an orphan, for example. Are you with me? So it sits different with you, and you're able to speak from a different vantage point, a different experience, right? So last week, alhamdulillah, we spoke about the lineage, the birth of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where he was born, when he was born, and then we spoke about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being an orphan before birth. His father had passed on. At 6 years old, his mother had passed on. Then he was in the care of his grandfather. Who was his grandfather? Abdullah, right? Until the age of 8, and then he was under the guardianship of his uncle, Abu Talib, right? But the entire time, after his mother passed on, who was his primary caregiver? She's a very famous, important person that we have to remember. Amina was the name of his mother. Who? Halima Sa'adiyah. Now she was sallallahu alaihi wasallam was breastfed by Halima Sa'adiyah. But after his mother had passed on, he was in the care of someone. Remember, he was under the guardianship of his uncle and his grandfather. But he was in the care of someone. Someone used to look after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Let's call it his nanny. And he referred to her as Ummi Barakah, Ayman. She was from Abyssinian descent. Right? Rasulullah sallallahu once been at Rasul, who wants to marry a woman from Jannah? And he says, I want to marry the woman of Jannah. And he was speaking about Ayman. So Rasulullah sallallahu becomes an orphan. First he was breastfed by Halima Sa'adiyah. Then he becomes an orphan. And there were various lessons that we learned from that, right? That one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed Rasulullah sallallahu in such tough times or hardships was so that we can relate to a certain extent. When we go through a bit of trauma or difficulty or backseat within our lives, and you think to yourself, if Rasulullah sallallahu went through that, where am I? We should actually be thankful, alhamdulillah, you know what, he sallallahu went through much worse than me. I'm going through this, I still have all of these things, This actually looks just like our category. Queen, exactly the same color, but she's just much older. And I am actually although please. Right? And one of the other lessons was why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed his source of support was so that he could rely only on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then, so today inshallah what we're going to speak, also what we spoke about last week was how Halima Sa'adiya's house was honored. Can you remember that? And many times we speak about honoring for the akhirah. We speak about if you do sunnah you're going to be rewarded in the akhirah. But one thing we learned from Halima Sa'adiyah was what? Not just in the akhirah but even in the dunya. If you want blessings in your sustenance, if you want barakah in your sustenance, if you want your money to stretch, what should you do? Adopt the sunnah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because when she had baby Muhammad, what happened to her sustenance? Everything just increased like tenfold, hundredfold. It was just like overflowing. They didn't know where it was coming from. So if we truly want abundance of rizq, and when I speak about the rizq, I mean sustenance, I mean long lives, healthy lives, happy lives. Adopt the sunnah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant us this. Assalamu alaikum. Right? So today inshallah we speak about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's first journey to Syria and his toil to earn a living. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about this in Surah Quraysh, Ila fi Quraysh, right? So Rihlat al-Shita wa-Sayf, the travel that the Arabs do in winter as well as summer. So in winter they go to the north and summer to the south. So his first travel to Syria, which is more to the north, was when he was approximately 12 years old. So it's very interesting, I find it interesting. By the way, I don't think anybody saw there's a documentary on YouTube about the tree in Jordan. You visited it? No? There's like a desert, complete desert. There is this one tree still standing out in the open. So the scholars, they say that this is probably that tree that when Rasulullah SAW came, and then the monastery of Bahira, anyways, before we even get into that, I mentioned this, right? So Isa is 12 years old, he travels with his uncle. Remember, he was in the care of his uncle from 8 years old. So they traveled towards Syria, and on their way to Syria, they stopped at a place, like close to Jordan. And when they stop over there, like, for the animals to herd and so on and so forth, from the monastery, there is a monk by the name of Bahira, and he notices certain things. So he notices what was one of the khususiyat, the specialities of Rasulullah sallallahu, that a cloud would follow him wherever he went. Imagine the cloud following Rasulullah everywhere. So he saw this happening. Then he went to them, he saw the Arabs, and then he asked him that, is there anyone amongst you by the name of Muhammad? They said, yeah. Who is he? And he's tending to the animals. So he said, hey, I'm looking, where's this person? Where do we see where he is? So when they stopped at this particular place, let's just pause it for a moment. All the Arabs had already reclined around the tree, and they sat, and they were all comfortable, like sitting. And then Rasulullah came in, and there was no space for him to sit. And then when he sat down, so just before this, Bahira tells the others that, you have the final messenger with you. This Muhammad is a very special person. And when he sees the Seerah Prophet, you have all the various signs, and he says, don't take him with you, rather take him back because the Jews are going to plot against him. So as he's sitting over there, there's no place for him to take shade. Then what happens? The tree comes down and shades Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he says, can you see, I told you, like a living miracle right in front of their eyes. The tree basically goes down to cover Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the sun. So anyway, so 12 years old, they turn back and they go back. So Bahira tells Abu Talib, the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if they're going to see him, the Jews, then they're going to definitely try to kill him. But this is something very interesting. Why? Because you know what, this week what we're going to try to do is we're going to speak about the lessons while we're speaking about the story, right? So there's something interesting because Bahira noticed Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a 12-year-old that this is the final message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. 12 years old. So what do you learn from that? That the Jews, or Umar ibn al-Khattab, one day asked Abdullah ibn Salam, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, they asked him, Abdullah ibn Salam was that companion, Salama, in Medina al-Munawwara, everybody spoke to him. And they told him, don't follow this man, he's a bad man, don't listen to him. That's Muhammad. Put your fingers in your ears, he's coming with witchcraft and he's going to break up family ties and so on and so forth. So Abdullah ibn Salam, he was a scholar of the gospel, of the scriptures, right? So he told him, I had a problem, listen, I'm an intelligent person, I will see for myself. So he came into Masjid Nabawi from the back, and when he looked inside, he just said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. This is like a solid cat. Come that side. can probably smell Queenie. I mean, our cat's name is, my father's cat's name is Queenie. So he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And then they asked him, like, but what happened? Why did you just take shahada like that? Nobody gave you da'wah, nothing. Okay, just comes. Right? Nobody invited you, so he just said that that isn't the face of a liar. Imagine you just looked at the face of Rasulullah and then he said, no, that isn't the face of a liar. So he embraced Islam. So Umar ibn Khattab asked Abdullah, he must play with him. Maybe he must put you on board, right? So Umar ibn Khattab asked this Abdullah ibn Salam because he was Ufay and he was very well read in the scriptures. That tell me something, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَعْرِفُونَ كَمَا يَعْرِفُونَ أَبْنَاءَهُم, that they recognize Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam even better than they recognize their own children and their own parents. Is this true? Said Abdullah ibn Salam, he says, this is 110% true. That we recognize Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam even more than we recognize our own children. Because he's describing such detail in the gospel, in the Torah, that there is no doubt that when somebody saw Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know that the description fit Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam exactly. Imagine. But obviously what had happened over the years, they changed the scriptures, they removed things, they added things, and Allah says in the Quran for like a, I'm trying to think what the English translation, for a measly, is that the word? A measly, maybe I want to for a measly penny, right? For nothing, they basically just altered the thing. And if you actually study Christianity, and the development of Christianity, you would find there was a time where the church separated themselves from the state. The state separated themselves from the church. That is why you find something like Sunday. Are you with me? For example, they said, you know what? No, and these laws of the church is too strenuous. No usury, no riba, no, we can't do this, we can't do everything we can't do. So, you know what? We're going to reserve Sundays for the church, and what we're going to do is, in the week, we're going to do what we need to do as a state for the country to go forward. Are you with me? That's why you find like Sunday, they're like prayers or whatever they need to do. But as Muslims, we don't have like a Sunday or Friday. Friday is our Eid, that each and every day the Sharia always applies to us. So what they did was, for political reasons, they separated things, and they added things, and they subtracted things, and so on and so forth. Right? Allah give us understanding. So anyways, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is returned back to Makkah al-Mukarramah. And he grows up over there. So that's the first lesson, that the Jews and the Christians, maybe not of today, but of those times that had the true gospel with them, they definitely recognize Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There's another lesson in that we learn. Imagine how arrogant you must be, that you can see this is the final messenger, and you know this is the final messenger, and so you don't follow him. Can you imagine that? So what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says? That they actually have a sickness in their heart, and we've increased them in this sickness. It's actually a sickness of the heart. Are you with me? When we sometimes behave in this particular manner, that's why it's very, very important. If somebody tells us something, young, old, learned, not learned, immediately just submit and accept. Whether they right or wrong, just submit and accept. If we don't know better, why? To protect ourselves from arrogance, ego, and this type of weaknesses in the heart. So we say, no problem, you are right, I don't want to argue. I'm going to do it, but I'm going to check up. Oh, you know what, shukran for that, I'm going to check up. I never say, where do you get this? What are you talking about? Because the minute we entertain that, what happens? We start developing this quality within ourselves. Right? Allah protect us, inshallah. So as Rasulullah grows older, and I think this is a very important lesson for us. The next phase in Rasulullah's life, he becomes a shepherd. So why does he become a shepherd? So you remember he's living in the house of Abu Talib. Abu Talib has a number of children. Right? And Rasulullah is living in the house, and he's thinking, I want to contribute to the house. So let's say he's 15 years old, 14, 15 years old, and he's thinking, wait, I need to add value to my household. So Dr. Ramadan al-Bukhari mentions that, you know, whatever Rasulullah toiled in the field, that never really added value to the house. You know, monetary wise, and for example, if a person needs 20,000 rand to run his household for the month, 15 or 30, whatever, and imagine me as a child, I give my father 300 rand a month. A 300 rand means something, but it's not really the money that can help you. It's just that respect and that type of, basically that thought that you have behind it, that respect, that honor. So Dr. Ramadan al-Bukhari mentions this. So the first lesson that we learn from the Rasulullah being a shepherd is that firstly, all of the other Anbiya, they were all shepherds. For some time in their life. But why is it so important? Because the scholars, they say, when you have sheep in front of you, you can't deal with them in a harsh manner. You have to deal with them in a tender manner, and you have to have lots of patience with sheep. So to prepare Rasulullah for what? For prophethood. You're going to have a plumskaper, and some of us get dominions also, that's this way and that way. So we have to have patience with one another. If we're in a position of leadership, with the parents, teachers, whatever the case may be, employee, whatever, bosses, remember we are there to be kind towards people, to elevate people, not to put them down. Allah SWT grant us understanding. That's number one, and that's the first lesson. The second lesson that we learn from Rasulullah being a shepherd at a young age is what? We have a habit today, and this is everyone you speak to, that I work hard. Why do I work hard? The main reason. It is a why do you work hard? Because Rashad is going to scale it. Why do you work hard? We work hard to make it easy for our children, so that they don't have to work hard. But I believe, if you read the Seerah of Rasulullah, I believe this is a major misconception. This is a major misconception. Because if you just look at your parents, think about our parents. They work maybe from the teenage years already. And what they achieve, not necessarily money, but they achieve character. It built character, responsibility. They built maturity. 21 years old, the guy was already like mature. He didn't have time for jokes. He was like a grown man already. Today you find 35, 40, even 50-year-olds, they still like black children. Why? Because they're not given any type of responsibility. So we should now, we make it easy for them. We open the doors for them, but at the same time, make them and open a door for them to contribute to the household. Even if it is like, you know what, my boy, you must buy the breads for the week. Or my daughter, boy. Why I mention clearly, not daughter? Because a daughter's responsibility, she can do it out of sadaqah, but the responsibility isn't to see to the household, to provide for the household. Are you with me? Allah SWT grant us understanding in this. Maybe we can have another discussion on that. But a man's responsibility, and it's a major problem today, that men, they struggle to provide for their families. Not in the sense that they can't find work necessarily, but they don't see the importance of working and providing for their family. So it's very, very important. But where does the training come from? From 11, 12 years old already. You want something? No problem. And I must mention this, I'm not speaking as if I make my kids work. We must all learn that's why, because we've been programmed in this manner. So like, we have to open up the doors. But we should actually say, you know what, you want something, no problem, clean the yard first. Every week, your job is to clean the yard, you get the 30 rand, 50 rand, whatever the case may be. But with that same money, at least half of it you must use, so you can work out in your mind, you know what, it's going to cost him so much for the bread. So I'm going to make it such that he can earn, let's say, 40% from his salary, he can make his pocket money, and the 60% he must actually use to provide for his family. I remember, Mark, can I mention something that you... he's right in front of me, so I'm thinking about it. So one day, he's now there. Okay, so hopefully now you can also learn that it was a good thing. So he asked him to sell cookies to the neighbors. And now his son was so excited, man. I think he made like a 200 rand or something, right? And then he came home and he was like, oh, 200 rand. But his sisters didn't have any money. And so he said, how much will you make? 200 rand? Okay, no problem. So split it to all of them. So he's like, huh? So he's like, no, give each one of them either like a 40, 50 rand. But from that amount, he had to give all of them. And then they basically had to use from it. So if you teach your sons, for example, which is yours, for example, just think about, if you teach your sons, I'm going to understand because I think it's a major problem, especially inheritance. What is one of the major crimes in inheritance? Zakaria? What's a major crime in inheritance?
Greed.
No, not greed.
The shares.
The shares. What about the shares? Double single. That the males receive double to the females. But just think about it. If you train your son to grow up in a particular manner, When it comes to that time, imagine society creates an environment of that. The daughter would understand that my brother would always look after me. Do you understand what I'm saying? But where did it come from? It came from a young age, you already know. Oh, how much you make a 50 rand? Give your sister, give that sister 10 rand, and go give your granny also 5 rand, 10 rand. Whatever the case may be, buy them a chocolate, make it, you instill that in them. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant our parents long lives that they are alive. And those who are person grant him high place in Jannah. For example, my father, one thing I learned from my father, if for example there's a wedding or a function or something, if you're not there, you'll be so upset. If someone's like, need your help, they're getting married, you have to be there. Number two, if he hears somebody charge to help him out, man, blow a gasket. Because there's a time of need, you have to be there. So, for example, if somebody is happening, I'm like, I can't, because of his training, I need to just be there. It's fine, anything I can do, I'm not very physically, what you call it, but I'll be there to maybe, whatever, just even for moral support, because you have to be there. Because that was his training. Find out if there's anything they need, if there's a wedding. Where does it come from? It comes from that nurturing from a young age, really. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understand it, right? Another lesson that we learned from Rasulullah being a shepherd. After he was a shepherd, what did he branch into after that? Into business. And that's how he met Khadija radiallahu anha, but we'll get there again, right? So what was the business that he did? He bought and sold certain things. He took trade caravans for people to Syria and so on and so forth, right? But what you learn from that as well? We have a society today where you must start up here. If you don't start with a suit and tie, not that I believe the suit and tie is cool, but what I mean is, if you don't look like the CEO when you're starting, then you're unsuccessful. We must create this environment that if it is halal income, alhamdulillah, support it, support your family. If you want to be a plasterer, you start with me. You don't have to start with being the developer of the property. Start with being a plasterer. Start with being mixing the dialogue. Start with whatever. But if they learn those characteristics from small, then one day when they actually become the developer, then they become great developers. But we didn't start, but started there. So never feel ashamed, because Rasulullah also went through that journey. And this is very, very important, because what is YouTube, TikTok, social media on the whole, especially Instagram and TikTok, what do they portray? As if success, you bought it in a lucky packet. You just got it out, boom, successful. Multi-billionaire, whatever the case may be, and that's like the new craze, billion, it's a billionaire. As if it just happened overnight. They always sell this fake story. But we must be of those people, like that Malakali always mentions, that he actively tells his children. For example, when he sees Nike, and they more Hello Kitty, because he has daughters, now one son. But they say Hello Kitty. Then he actively goes out of his way to say, not Hello Kitty. That is only a gimmick. You know what? That's exactly the same like a pet. Because you see what they're doing, they want you. He goes out of his way to explain to them that don't fall into the trap of a name brand, for example, or into the trap of what they want us to be, like consumerism type of thing. So it is very, very important as parents to be active in the upbringing of our children, for the akhirah as well as for the dunya. You know, before we go on to the next, the next lesson about this is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Habib Khalid, he mentions, and the Habib bin Azim actually mentioned to me, that if you are not engaged with your children, any moment, Shaitan just waits for that moment, and then Shaitan is open. Just the minute you stop with your sights on them or engaging with them, then Shaitan is busy after that. So it's actually like a 24/7 job. We actually have to be there all the time. Myself, firstly. We sometimes be so preoccupied with everything else that we forget, we think they raise themselves. But actually we have to raise them. A tree doesn't raise by itself. We have to place put the stocky over there, etc. and all of those types of other places, right? And 3 lessons that we can learn from the earning of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The first lesson is that Rasulullah from a young age, remember like I mentioned, for example, my father, if someone is getting married or somebody needed something, whatever, from a young age it was instilled in him already that I must assist Abu Talib. Are you with me? It wasn't something that just popped up in his mind. From a young age, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed within him. The second lesson that we learn is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have divinely given Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You think about it. Allah could have made things very easy. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have to make Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam a shepherd? Not an easy job to look after sheep, to learn these type of things. Why? To show us that for success, that firstly you have to start at the beginning, that Dr. Ramadan Abuti mentioned, and number two is this, to teach us the importance of hard work. There's nothing wrong with that, no matter what it is, as long as it is halal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will place barakah in. And the third lesson, this is a very important thing, that teach your children. For example, our kids always ask us, buy me this, buy me that. To teach them that, you know what, I'm going to buy it for you, but you need to do A, B, and C, D, E, F, G. It's not that, oh, you don't want to give me anything for free, oh, you're being difficult for your children. No. Just imagine Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had handouts as he was growing up. What would have happened when he became the prophet? What did people have said about him? Are you with me? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from what? That anybody can point at him here. Back in the day I used to help him out. Back in the day I assisted him here. Or back in the day I helped him with this payment, that payment, etc., etc., etc. So to the best of our ability, we try to always not enrich our children, but to make them to make them free from the hand of people. Rather teach him to be the hand that is giving and not the hand that is receiving. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understand, inshallah. As he was growing up, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there was two occasions that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that there was like a party, like a bit of merry happening in Makkah while he was tending to his sheep. So remember, they would go in the outskirts with the sheep. And then he told his friend, look after my sheep, and then I'm going to go see. And then as he was going, so both occasions Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, let me just take a like relax, and then I'm going to carry on later. One occasion was right at the entrance of the place, the other occasion was under a tree. And then he fell asleep. And later on, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala caused him to go into a deep sleep, so that he does not engage in those vices. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala divinely protected Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Dr. Sayyid Ramadan Al-Buti mentioned something, there's a beautiful example that we also learn from him. Same thing like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have hand-picked Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, could have made Mount Uhud follow him in gold. In the similar manner, Allah would have removed all of that desires like a normal child from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala left him like that to show us what? That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a normal man. Like the poet says, Rajul, laysa ka rajulin. He was a man, but not like a man. But in the entire form, the physical nature, he was like a man. He had a heart, he had blood. He was just like you and I, but not like you and I. Why? Because he was anointed with prophethood. So one of the things that you learn is that Dr. Sayyid Ramadan Al-Buti doesn't mention this, but one of our other scholars, they mention that if you keep a child busy, preoccupied with other things, and what is he preoccupied with? To work in the fields isn't easy. But if you keep them busy, whether you're going to be active, taking them to rush, taking them there, all of these things, what happens? Their mind is very difficult when they are tired to think about anything else after that. Are you with me? So even though he went, he fell asleep. So what you learned that he might have been tired, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understand, inshallah. Are there any questions before we carry on? Someone tell me something interesting about the Seerah. Anything before we carry on? Just to break my voice. I'll hear someone else's voice. Bismillah.
I guess the interesting thing about being a shepherd in the desert is he was kind of on his own, and perhaps in nature, or the desert was nature that time,
Yeah.
And perhaps he had a lot of time to think and reflect, and maybe at night observe the stars. And I just wondered, I know that's described also in some other
Interesting.
Seerah books. I think that
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So you can look at it like that, but remember, when all the spirituality began, it was at the age of 40, or just before that, about 6 months prior to that. So Rasulullah would see dreams and it would happen, but I'm going to get to that later on, inshallah. At this stage, he was merely a youngster, but he was special. Why? Because he had two nicknames. What is his nicknames? As-Sadiqul Ameen. He was the most truthful and the most honest. So it shows, listen, if you have such a quality, growing up in Makkah al-Mukarramah, where there are crazy vices happening all around, and you are a Sadiqul Ameen. So you can imagine that obviously his character was impeccable. So he might have been like the youngster, but definitely outstanding from amongst the youth of Makkah al-Mukarramah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala understanding. So we continue with the Prophet ﷺ's trade with Khadija's wealth and his marriage to her. So he is growing up as a shepherd, then he starts doing a bit of more, like growing up in the ranks, in business, and he's becoming much more afraid with business. And there's something that you learn from this. If you are an honest person, an honest businessman, you don't even really need advertisement. Because you don't need advertisement. Your name will spread throughout the city very, very quickly. Imagine the Rasulullah, he developed two names. You are a businessman and he developed two names. As-Sadiqul Ameen, the most truthful and the most honest. Where does it spread to? Khadija, it comes to her ears. But just think about it. Normally people speak gossip. What they're going to say? That older, whatever. It's usually bad things. Can you imagine what a good person he must have been in Makkah al-Mukarramah? That what is spread about him is only positivity. To the extent that Khadija is really, I need to meet this Muhammad. Why? Because I want to work with this Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So this trade was called a Mudaraba trade, in which Khadija, she puts up not the money, but what do they call it? The capital, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam does the work, and then they split the profits. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is offered a position by Khadija, but just before we get there, we must see what this which is going to get married. So Khadija, she's a young girl. Who can remember who was her uncle? He was a priest, right? But we'll get to his name later on, right? No fault. But we'll speak about him later. But anyways, he was also a priest of the gospel. So once Khadija, she was young, and she has a dream. And guess what is the dream? The dream is that the moon comes right down and basically is placed within her lap. So she relates this dream to Nawfal, who was a Jew, right? Or a Christian. And then Nawfal says that you are going to marry a prophet. So Nabi Muhammad is in Makkah. So she observes, she was married twice already before this, Khadija radiallahu anha. So she also observes certain qualities in Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As-Sadiqul Ameen, he's a handsome person, he's like this, can you imagine how handsome he must have been? Aisha radiallahu anha, she says of one, they asked her about the beauty of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. She asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about this, that they cut their fingers when they saw Yusuf alayhi salatu wasalam. But I don't see anybody like cutting their fingers for you. Ya Rasulullah. And she says, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed my beauty in hijab, if they had to see my true beauty, they would have ripped out their hearts. Can you imagine how beautiful Isa had to be? Ya salam. Anyways, so Khadija radiallahu anha, she goes into agreement with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But remember, it's not just about money. It's also to see. Let me observe this person, because my uncle told me, my cousin told me that I'm going to marry a prophet one day. That is my dream. So she also has this hope within her mind, maybe it is Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he travels all the way to Syria. So what he does was, he's a master businessman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless. He comes into Syria and then he flips the goods for a prophet. And then he buys another batch of goods and then he flips that for a prophet as well. And then he returns with double the profit for Khadija. And she's blown away because there were many people that worked for her and they were just stealing the money. Some would go with the caravan and just never return. Can you imagine what the breath of fresh air might have been like? What? He's returned and he returned with double. Definitely something special. And then she also sends her slave, Seerah, with Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then when they return, she asks Seerah, tell me about your travel. How was this person? So Seerah also says that I observed something very special about him. A cloud would follow us all the time. But another strange thing is, I'm a slave. I went to be in his sallallahu alaihi wasallam service, but the entire time he was in my service. He was always making my life, finding if I was okay, checking up on me, carrying the heavy loads, and I was supposed to do all of those things. But he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was always in my service and in my khidmah. Imagine this is based on, it's just, I've never seen a person like this that has so much concern for the next individual. And Khadija radiallahu anha, she's thinking, wow, she's blown away. You know what, but she's also thinking, you know, I'm 40 years old. But he is 25 years old. So, you know, it's like a bit awkward. Because in Makkah al-Mukarramah, it was very, very easy for him to find a much younger wife and multiple wives. You know, just to mention that as well, slave girls. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam never, he wasn't married. And then one person, her name is Nafisa. Anybody know Nafisa? Nafisa is a matchmaker, right? So she comes to Khadija and she's like the matchmaker of Makkah. She was the matchmaker of Makkah. And it's a beautiful thing actually. You know, sometimes you know people, they're not married for years. They're not married for years or they've never been married and they're waiting for the person. But sometimes if we know people like that, we should try to set them up with other people. This time Nabi Muhammad got married. So Nafisa tells Khadija, you know what, if he did such a good job, why don't you propose to him? So Khadija says, you know what, no, you said, don't worry, I'll sort it out. So Nafisa goes to Nabi Muhammad and she doesn't tell him about her intentions. She asks him, hey Muhammad, like, why not marry him? He says, no, you know, not at the moment, because he felt embarrassed to a certain extent, you know, because he had to assist Abu Talib. And he felt, you know, he didn't want to add more burden to Abu Talib, so that's why he wanted to work and assist Abu Talib in the house. And she says, you know what, my friend Khadija, and Nabi Muhammad is thinking, Khadija and me, you know, I'm just Muhammad, I'm an orphan boy. She was known as the queen of Makkah al-Mukarramah. We, like me and her, it's just like, you know, it's too far apart. This was the thoughts of Nabi Muhammad. And then Nafisa says, like, convinced Nabi Muhammad that, you know what, try it, man, you know, go propose. And then Nabi Muhammad sends a delegation. His uncle, Abbas, and Abu Talib was amongst the delegation. And they go to the family of Khadija, and eventually it is basically set up, and Rasulullah marries Khadija radiallahu anha. And again, there's a lesson in that. You know, today we find it's a common thing. It's actually become very common, and I sometimes see parents and they're very hurt with this. Where the children, they do their own wedding plans with the in-laws before the time. You saw this before. Like nowadays. For example, they plan the whole wedding with the in-laws, they go over there. For example, the boy, he just goes there, they're going to get married, whatever. Then he speaks to the in-laws. He never really even spoke to his parents. Right at the end, what happens, he comes and tells his parents, and you know what, I'm intending to get married, even this plan, this is what we're thinking. This is what we're thinking. This is the people that raised you, that we have no respect. So it's very, very important if we have, and we know people that have an idea to get married going forward, first inform the parents, send them over there, because that is probably the most honorable thing in their life. They raised you to that point, and now they can finally say, wow, I'm letting my son or my daughter, let my daughter go now, also not just understand me. So Rasulullah marries Khadija radiallahu anha. So there's a discussion that stemmed from this. And it will be tackled a bit more later, but we're going to speak about it now, right? So Rasulullah later on marries a woman by the name of, besides the woman, Rasulullah had how many wives? Later on? 9 wives. Throughout his life, he had 9 wives. So what the Orientalists and the evangelists, what they say is that he was a person that followed his desire. You know what I mean? Obviously from the apparent, maybe it might look like that. We would never think like that. But he followed his desire, he married multiple women, and so on and so forth, right? The first point is, we mentioned this, and this is the beauty of Rasulullah married to Khadija. The first step is that firstly, if Rasulullah ever followed his desires, the Quran is the only book, the only heavenly book that limits a person with the amount of wives. You know that? You know, before in the Christian nations, in the Jewish scriptures, they used to marry 100 wives. 150, I don't know where they had the headspace for that, but they used to have 100, 200 wives. There was no limit. Islam is the only religious book that limits the amount of wives that you can take. And Islam is the only religious book that says, take 2, 3, 4. But if you can't take one, the only religious book that says take one, if you can't be fair and you can't be just. Amazing. That's number one. Number two was this. He ﷺ was in his prime, 25 years old, a strong, handsome man. But he chooses, and this in no way brings down the level or the status of Khadija radiallahu anha. But he marries a much older woman, 15 years older than him. Khadija is 40 years old. He marries her. That's number one. And number two, Khadija radiallahu anha was married twice before that. And for the entire time of the marriage, Khadija radiallahu anha and Rasulullah sallallahu remains married only to Khadija radiallahu anha. She passes away at the age of 65. So until the age of 50, Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is married only to Khadija radiallahu anha. So why this is so important? And this immediately debunks the entire arguments that they might say that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was a person that followed his desires, or they ambushed tribes and they would take the women slaves. Why? Because that was they thought. Immediately it's put to bed. Why? Because from 25 to 50 years old, a person is much more prone to desiring and thinking to take a second wife, or a third or fourth. Isn't it so? Because your desires is much more stronger at that particular age. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam married much more women, you will find out that it was much later in his life. And the more we're going to learn about the Seerah, you're going to find out many of them and most of them were for political and strategic reasons. Most of them. Yeah, most of them. And the marriage to Khadija, imagine you are able to, because the culture, for example, I mentioned this one, I think this is important. In today's day and age, the culture, for example, in Cape Town, men don't take second wives anymore. Not because it's impermissible, maybe in the house it's impermissible. You're going to join them, right? But why don't they take it? Okay, it's fear also, not, that's another thing. But why don't they take second wives? What's the main reason? Another guy was scared to speak. Hey? The cost, no, Habib. Not the cost. Maybe you don't give out the cost for that. You'll take a chance. It's because of society. Because of society. Society dictates how we behave. And leads to a certain extent, because if certain things isn't acceptable in society, it is very, very difficult for us to do that. Isn't it so? For example, if a person goes to a call center, or he goes to a meeting like in corporate, with a top and a turban, he won't survive. Not that they will, I'm not the mouse. Not that they are going to fire him, but he himself won't be able to handle that type of social pressure. In the similar manner, to take multiple wives is permissible, but socially it is very, very difficult. Right? Now imagine in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, socially it was encouraged to have much more than one wife. Do you understand? Can you see the correlation? It was socially, it was encouraged to have like concubines, that means slave girls that you sleep with. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam still only stayed with Khadija radiallahu anha. So what do you learn from that? That even though it was 110% accepted in society, it was fine. He sallallahu still stayed with Khadija radiallahu anha, showing what? That he wasn't a person to follow his lust and his desire. That wasn't his inclination. He sallallahu was a pure person. Allah. Sallallahu ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. You know, I wrote down certain points about Khadija radiallahu anha. What time is Isha? 33. Okay, so we have 10 minutes left. I just want to mention about Khadija radiallahu anha. Imagine 25 years, the lady that bore his children. Aisha radiallahu anha later on, right? She said that I wasn't jealous of anyone more than I was of Khadija radiallahu anha. Only of Khadija. Because Rasulullah would praise her whole day. Can you imagine that? He would praise the skies and praise her to the skies. That is how the hadith is like. It's like you would just speak about Khadija all the time. When he would slaughter, and then he would take some of the meat and distribute to the friends and the family of Khadija radiallahu anha. When this narration where you would sit in the house and you would hear a voice, he would stand up immediately. And he would say, why? He said, because I hear that it's the family of Khadija. It's the family of Khadija that reminds me of her. Can you imagine? Ya salam, imagine that time of love. Allah bless, ya salam. So Aisha radiallahu anha, she says one day, I told Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, every time there's Khadija, and the wording is like lady with no teeth, man, oh vrouw. Every time we speak about the gift of Allah, like you better. You're like a younger woman. And then she says Rasulullah turned at her and he was visibly angry. The first time I saw Rasulullah becoming angry. Imagine when we become angry, you know, that time we will allow it, no problem, no problem. He became angry and he says, Wallahi, Allah never gave me better than Khadija. Wallahi, Allah never gave me better than Khadija. When everyone was against me, she supported me. When everybody was turning their backs, she supported me and she was there for me. When nobody wanted to help me, she made the money and the finances available for me for da'wah. Imagine, she was my comfort, she was my pillar of strength. If there wasn't Khadija, it would have been, there wouldn't have been a Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The supporter of Khadija was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have done what he did. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all Khadijas, inshallah.
Amen.
Zainab radiallahu anha, later on, she's captured. Her husband is captured in one battle, right? One of the daughters of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And her husband is captured. He's not a believer at that particular time yet. So they ransom them all off right in Medina. So Zainab radiallahu anha in Makkah, she's still in Makkah, she ransoms and she sends a necklace. This is the ransom for her husband. When Rasulullah sees the necklace, he bursts out into tears and he can't stop crying. He asks him why. He says, this is the necklace of Khadija. Can you imagine how many years later? You see the necklace of Khadija, you burst into tears. And then he makes mashura and he asks my parents, can I please send it back? Can I send it back without and just give him the necklace? The only thing is, please just send Zainab radiallahu anha for me. Can you imagine, you just see something that reminds you of your deceased wife and you start crying. Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward Khadija radiallahu anha for the sacrifice that she's made. And you know what's the beautiful thing about it? Khadija made no salah. You know that? Salah wasn't revealed yet when she passed on. There's no salah. She would do that type of salah, but salah hasn't become fard yet. Fasting hasn't become fard yet. Nothing. Imagine. And she has, one day Rasulullah enters into the house and she sees her going through difficulty. With the year she passes away, as known as Amul Huzn, the year of grief and sadness. Even Abu Jahl felt sorry for Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So sad he was. And then Rasulullah sees her and says, oh Khadija, don't worry, that your palace in Jannah, the roof of your palace in Jannah will be the throne of the Arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Will be the throne of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine her place in Jannah. Imagine Jibreel alayhi salam comes to Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, says, convey our salam to Khadija radiallahu anha. In this dunya, imagine Allah said salam to you. Jibreel alayhi salam said salam to you. Imagine your maqam. Rasulullah says, the best woman of her time was Maryam alayhi salam. And the best woman of our time is Khadija radiallahu anha. There was nobody better than Khadija radiallahu anha. The Orientalists, this is like our Achilles heel. They always look at the marriages of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now, even if it might be that you might have read some literature, and that's why I mentioned last week that he was a brother, he don't believe in hadith. Remember I mentioned? Because he only reads 3 salahs a day. I don't know if you maybe don't want to take wudu, but that's like fun, right? No, I'm very serious about it, right? He reads 3 salahs a day. Because he, in his mind, he read certain literature that says hadith only came 100 years later, or whatever the case may be. So, remember Oriental scholars from the West that studies the East with the intention of debunking and basically destroying the East, like the Islam basically, they would write certain things that has no basis, but because it's presented in an academic manner, it sounds like it's the truth. But Allah never. So even if that we might have come across certain things, I hope, inshallah, that those ideas is immediately, calm down, inshallah, within us. Just another point, and we probably end up on this. Another point, when Rasulullah ﷺ wasn't married, just think about this is a beautiful point. When he was married to Khadija, he wasn't a prophet, isn't it so? He was 25, he only became a prophet 15 years later. In that time, he ﷺ wasn't preoccupied with prophethood, nubuwah, da'wah, guiding of the Ummah. We said, La rahata ba'da al-yawm, there's no rest for me after today. Can you imagine Rasulullah he was dying al-fikr, he was always worried about the Ummah, Jahannam. They're going to go to Jahannam. It's like you're not trying to save the Ummah from Jahannam, always, perpetually. Later on, from 50 years old, when Khadija passes away, now he takes more wives. Do you understand something? He's preoccupied with the Ummah and the expansion of the Ummah. Now Rasulullah has more wives. So what does that teach you? In a time when you had the time to do what you never did. So it shows here where it's not even about time. It's not about desire for more women. It's not about that. It's genuinely just strategic. It's about the betterment of deen. It's about the growth of deen. Everything Rasulullah did was for the advancement of deen. We pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding, inshallah. Ya Salam. Allow us to be in the company of Rasulullah, the company of Khadija, our mother, there's one person I can do this. Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, we heard about him. He was a companion, a very famous companion, but he was like a very, you have some, they have peculiar nature. Like we all have someone like in our family, a very strange uncle. Like Abu Dhar was like this, no really, he couldn't live with people actually. At the time, you go live rather in Newton's forest. Because it's like everything would be like he was very stern on following the ways of Allah and Rasulullah to the letter of the law, So Abu Dhar, he accepts Islam, he is one of the first people to accept Islam, first thing, right? I'm actually thinking about someone else. That's not Abu Dhar. But Abu Dhar is one of the first people to accept Islam. But there's one person. Why am I thinking about Abu Dhar? I think it might have been Abu Dhar. No, not Abu Dhar. No, it's not. It wasn't Abu Dhar. I'm thinking about Abu Dhar because it was in this period that this person came to Makkah al-Mukarramah. I think it's Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. I think that's it. If anybody knows, you can just correct me next week, inshallah. I'll try to check it out. So he comes into Makkah al-Mukarramah. He embraces Islam very late. But he says, I came into Makkah and then the practice was to do the tawaf. But I came to do some business with the Quraysh. And then I saw this person standing in the heat of the day. This man, woman and a child standing over there. And they were like standing in front of the Kaaba praying like salah. And later on, I came to find out that it was Nabi Muhammad sallallahu Khadija and Ali radiallahu anhu. I imagine to think about it, you saw them over there. If you had to just go inquire, you could have embraced Islam. So this was Khadija. Rasulullah's support even by the Kaaba. When they tried to abuse him, you're going to learn later on how they abused Nabi Muhammad. But the support for him was Khadija radiallahu anha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us understanding. Are there any questions? Wow, this week we end up like 33. Last week we were like 25 minutes early. Alhamdulillah. You know what's a nice thing if you live with women at home? You might have women at home. But I'm living at my parents again. So I live with my wife, my sister, and my mother. Now that's a dangerous combination. Alright? So I was like thrown under the bus for evening. Yeah, they're probably watching. I mentioned them, we hope you prepared properly. We hope you prepared enough. Because last week you did a salawat. And the whole afternoon, I was like, yeah, Allah. Anyway, Allah bless our family, inshallah. Any questions? Is it wild? Is it clear? Just a question from our side. Look, last week we did the lesson. We did the story or the event, and then we did the lessons that we were able to derive at the end. Is it fine the way I'm speaking about it like this while I'm adding in the Iqra and the lot whilst we are speaking? I don't want to come at the end and then you might have missed the story now, our memories are. So just while we're speaking, to actually mention the Iqra and the lot as we carry on. Is that fine, ladies? Okay, inshallah. Allah bless us. Allah allow us to become of those people that are the first thing to take lesson from the Seerah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I really love it. And if you just look at these type of things as practical lessons from the Seerah of Nabi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that you wouldn't have necessarily thought about them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to when we searching for guidance, and with the minute you open the Seerah, immediately you find guidance. Just this morning, one of our, I can't call him my colleague, I can't call him my colleague, one of our mothers at Good 3 at school. So I was sitting with her, and we were speaking about some tafsirs, And I was saying about this brother that sometimes they decide to be a hafiz or Umar al-Sari. We don't have Umar al-Sari, we decide to last night, he's in front. It's like this angelic voice, he might be in the masjid already. But yeah. And then a couple of weeks ago, he recited Surah Al-Tahrim. And the last two pages, oh ya Allah, how beautiful. And it's sometimes Allah SWT just opens up for you certain things. And I was standing and Zakaria asked me about the Arabic language because we tutoring, like he's helping me with Nahu. And then as we're sitting, and I tell myself, you know what, and I tell him that you always kind of learn something new in Nahu. As we're learning, I said, something Allah will always open up to you. You just open up your heart and Allah will always open up to you. So that same night I'm standing in the salah and I'm listening to him, but he reads at such a beautiful mellow pace that I could hear one word and the same word was on the other side. So I had to practice listen from it. So I was telling her, it to her, so she was like, you know what, I really needed to hear that now. Because she was also maybe like, let's say, going through something that day and she needed to hear these verses for this week. So that is how the Seerah and the Quran will be to us. You have a particular challenge in your life at this moment, Allah will allow you, you open up the Seerah, you're like, wow. This is exactly what I needed now. Oh, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they somebody just for you out of the blue, they tell you something, and you're like, wow, that's exactly what I needed to hear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just understand and made it to be such that we have such a relationship with the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No questions. Just for 1 minute, can we do some salawat? Right? Sallallahu ala Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, 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 sallallahu